Yeah, and you could kind of hear it when he was talking there. There's a level of excellence that's expected, that he expects from himself and his team, and it's frustrating to lose to a team multiple times like BDS. Well, and it's frustrating to go down in the first 5 seconds against Endpoint here off the kickoff. It's going to be Relating Wave, who pops it up to himself and puts it home. Alpha couldn't get the touch, and that is definitely a frustrating way to start off game one.
Not at all how you want to start it off, but definitely, you know, if they didn't have the check in their brain right before kickoff, they got it now. And Alpha will start. I will say that, you know, Vitality on the start in the pregame. K-Dop, he definitely hit the double flip reset. I was here for it.
I saw it.
Yeah, watch out for it. I'm telling you, K-Dop's going to pop off. He's going to utilize that at some point in this game, maybe.
That would be a top 1 clip for Gibbs instantly if you get the double flip reset from K-Dop.
When's the last time we've seen K-Dop really hit like a flip reset goal or anything? It hasn't really been in that sort of role on this team lately. In fact, I think, you know, dare I say it, K-Dop has been slumping a little bit in terms of, you know, what we're used to seeing him perform at. He's usually being one of the best players in the world, but he hasn't really met that mark in a little while, obviously being overshadowed by BDS, but also a lot of these European teams that have come up through the woodwork. And Endpoint right now, I mean, they're stopping Vitality at the punch every time. There's no opening for Vitality. They're sitting pretty far back here against Endpoint on the rotation. They can't really get a favorable 50 for their life.
Oh, and Alpha is going to get the clear, but not for long. Metzenaris puts it away. And, you know, we talked a lot about Vitality, of course, because we just saw that video. But on the other side of the field, you got players like Virtuoso and a player that she's pointed out, Metzenaris. And I absolutely agree. You know, Metzenaris, when he gets going, especially in that support role, setting up his teammates, boy, they look good. And he looks good as well. As Vitality here trying to force it through the defense. And Endpoint still holding strong as they hold on to their 1-goal lead.
You know, Relating Wave looked like he was on a pogo stick for a little bit, trying to figure out how exactly that ball was going to get cleared out. Oh, Endpoint. That was Virtuoso that time. Just snuck that ball away from a Vitality attacker. That's really tripping up Vitality's rotation forward. What a shot denied.
Great play there by Alpha, getting his flip reset on the first touch, and then it comes right back to him, and he sets himself up for a nice pass down into the box. I think everyone knew from Endpoint it was coming, but still a great play from Alpha, a creative one at least. As Endpoint are feeling the pressure here early on after scoring their first goal. Vitality have hit the back wall multiple times. K-Dop looking for the shot, and he does put it in near post to tie it up.
All 3 players on Endpoint were sitting on low boost by the time this shot came. Relating Wave made that first touch. There was no follow-up forthcoming. No chance for him to get back up to it. Relating Wave had hit the ground with no boost, and that was it. It starved them out, and Vitality put him in the ground on that play.
And Vitality have certainly had the better of Endpoint here through the first half of game one. They have been faster. They've created more chances. They've been more threatening as another one goes off the crossbar. There's also been a lot of shots off the woodwork as well. Fairy Peak gets bumped out of the way on his attempt. Here's Alpha still trying to put the pressure on for Vitality as things finally slow down and get thrown back to the side. And Virtuoso, did he get a piece of him to put him out of the way?
It looks like he did. Get a demo to start it, and then right on the spawn, air tackle, boom,
bang.
Got him.
Got him. And that's the, look, I mean.
Clubbed him.
If you've watched any Endpoint game, you know that this is what Virtuoso does. And, you know, I think he's kind of toned it down a little bit. I think he's been caught out one too many times now trying to go for bumps. But, man, the demos, the bump game, it opens up so much opportunity, and it keeps your opponent paranoid, right? It's like, where's Virtuoso? What is he going to do? Is he going to be behind me bumping me? Yes, he is. He's always there. Virtuoso is always there, and he's there again to put away the 3rd goal for Endpoint.
Truly encapsulates what it means to be a disruptive player. Definitely agree. You know, he's toned it back on the demos. That's not all he goes for. He's not just sitting downfield. Instead, he's really rounded out his challenge game and his ability to snake the ball out of situations that you don't expect him to, and just be a really great front man for Endpoint. And that right there in that last little play, Corelli, kind of capped off your whole point. It's like he's not just going for the demos, but they create so much opportunity to, you know, or rather you're just questioning what Virtuoso's going to do. And next thing you know, he's putting the ball in the back of your net twice.
Oh!
Again, Virtuoso finds the back.
And who sets him up? Metsanaris, your relating wave, gets everyone from Vitality on the back wall. Metsanaris puts it laterally to the box. Virtuoso's there, of course, in the mix, as always, for Endpoint. And 4 goals now, up by 3, Endpoint are, and they're looking strong. A flurry of attacks, and they're able to put away just about all of them.
Mets just couldn't get to the ball, and Alpha will dive right into the net. Getting Vitality back into this one quickly. A little bit of time for 2 goals.
Doesn't he make it look so easy? I mean, this looks so routine for Alpha. Just for him to pick it up, flip into the ball, to keep up with pace, and then to carry it past that last defender. It's a routine play is what it feels like from Alpha, and he keeps his team in it. Now only down by 2 goals with just over a minute remaining.
At this point, you're convinced he could do it blindfolded.
I think he can.
As long as he feels the touch onto the ball, he's like, all right, I know exactly how to play this. K-Dop, nice catch on the delay, but couldn't get by Metsanaris. I don't think K-Dop got the best first touch that he wanted, although maybe he was trying to challenge under Mets on the play. Either way, Fairy Peak able to shovel that ball out downfield. Virtuoso on the backside after the demo will also pick up the save. So he's been consistently going to that physical game in this first mark of the match to great success.
30 seconds left here. Here's Alpha. He's got to pick it up, take it himself. I don't think he got his flip. He's a bit too far out in front of him. Now he wants a piece of Virtuoso. Does get it. Virtuoso still gets there. K-Dop trying to force it through the defense. Fairy Peak just trying to keep it on for Vitality as Endpoint struggling to clear this one out. Can Relating Wave finally do it? Shut down by Alpha.
Here we go.
Our Vitality going to get the last chance. Virtuoso and Metsanaris are up. Virtuoso trying to clear it away. Does get by K-Dop. Now Alpha full boost to work with, but flipped too far. Metsanaris actually keeps it up. So does Virtuoso, and I guess it really doesn't matter at this point. They're down by 2, and Vitality will drop the first game in a very crucial and strong Endpoint victory here in Game 1.
It was definitely fun to watch them try anyway, despite the futility it might be at the end of that game. But Endpoint, they started out right on the kickoff. The first 5 seconds of the game was a goal, and then Virtuoso, he created a masterpiece on the pitch. Corelli painted a beautiful picture, even though Virtuoso means musician. But go with it. Go with me here. I think that Vitality they were starting to give a lot of respect to that, and they were still trying to force, their game. They wanted to get those quick follow-ups. They wanted to have the cutoffs on attempted clears, but Virtuoso was constantly relaxing the rotation by taking the demo in the highest value situation. Like, I just think Virtuoso played such a clean game that way. Yeah. Obviously, Metsanaris and Relating Wave did their work in midfield and on the offensive half, but I think Virtuoso just conducted all of that for Endpoint.
And you can kind of see the difference between when Vitality had more opportunity midway through that first game. They had a lot of shots. They were putting Endpoint on the back foot. It was very tough for Endpoint to break out. Then those flurry of chances come for Endpoint, and you could see that Vitality became very uncomfortable at that point. They didn't have as many options. They were stuck on their end for most of the game, and Endpoint did a great job of just being unpredictable, and it's something that Vitality has always struggled with, is unpredictable teams.
And Vitality weren't even able to establish real confidence early on. They had actually hit the crossbar a couple of times on opportunities that they did have. So when it was clicking for them, they weren't actually able to commit anything beyond the box. But they might get it here. Relating Wave hops up with no boost and just takes away the ball from Fairy Peak. K-Dop will keep it locked in here to buy some time for Vitality. But it starts out in the first minute, more of the same. Vitality scrambling for the ball on offense, created an opportunity off of a bump, but Fairy Peak doesn't really have a solid angle to get power on his shot. Here, K-Dop peeks it up top. No one from Endpoint can catch that one.
What a strike from K-Dop. Very similar to his goal in the last game as well. Just putting it in the gap so the defense lobs it to the back post. Beautiful shot from K-Dop to give Vitality that 1-0 lead.
Not the crossbar. Already a great start. And maybe a greater start as K-Dop gets 2 with just a minute over 4.
Yeah, pretty simple kickoff goal here, and Fairy Peak does a great job. He attacks that just off center to the right of the ball, and that's what stalls it for K-Dop to come through. and put the shot on target. Very easy shot for him to put away. 2 goals for him, 2 assists for Fairy Peak, and 2 goals in the lead now for Vitality.
To add on to the pain for Endpoint in terms of their results against Vitality, or the lack thereof, they've only brought Vitality to match point 1 time. And that was a match that they won before Season X had started. Vitality kicked that ball up right over back to the corner. You know, rarely do these matches go the distance, but Endpoint, they've leveled up over time. And in the winter split, they're looking a little different.
Look at this pass for Metzenaris. Takes that extra touch on the back wall to bait in that guy on the line, and then quickly dishes it out to Relating Wave. Great play from Metzenaris there, and Endpoint, beautiful goal to get back into this game and cut the lead in half.
Something Endpoint were able to do quickly was score in bunches and made the lead feel a little too far ahead for Vitality to catch up. That was potentially dangerous. Vitality still being harassed. That was Fairy Peak, who just had to worm his way around Virtuoso that whole time and somehow came away clean.
He was running from that entire time. Did well, though, because he stayed with the play, stayed center to it, left the goal open for just a split second. But there's no way Endpoint could put a shot on target. That was well managed by Fairy Peaks. It's quite annoying to have a player chase you around, and it's also quite annoying to give up the lead and have the game be tied up, especially in your face here. Virtuoso does a great job to drop this one down, and Metzenaris there to put it home.
Well, Metz still, you know, with the presence of mind, he didn't have a lot of boost in that situation. He had to be first to that ball, and he knew Vitality were going to be quick to it, and he had to be perfect because he only got, a few head lifts above the last defender in net. In fact, had to chip him on his way to that ball to find his way to the top. Virtuoso will grab that ball, and Vitality, a 2-goal lead, not very big for them, but a 3-goal stint will put them 1 ahead. Another one, that one for Fairy Peak.
And Vitality are really keeping Endpoint honest on the back post right now. Fairy Peak, just again, in the same exact spot that K-Dop had put his goal in. Just that left side back post, just out of reach of the man on the goal line. And Endpoint have to know it. Vitality have just been brutal in the shooting department here in Game 2.
The shots all accurate where that was missing in the first game, and very well could have been and probably just was the difference early on of establishing the pace of the game. Endpoint have to pick up another one. Endpoint are used to having to play in scraps like this, though. How many times have they played from behind and made a startling comeback? They did it already, and they almost tied it right back up, but Relating Wave's shot was just off the post. Long back pass to Metzenaris. Got the catch, made the clear difficult for K-Dop. Fairy Peak and K-Dop running into each other, but the clear is good enough for K-Dop to score. He will get the goal, and Vitality up by 2 now.
There was a bunch of cars that jumped after this ball and just tumbling downfield. K-Dop almost was about to either get demoed or bumped there.
What was Relating Wave looking at?
Just has to jump and put the shot on target.
I was just like, so the double commit happens, right? Relating Wave knows he's the last guy back. And like, you see K-Dop landing in front of it there. Like, I don't know what other way that play was supposed to develop, but kicking out wide was guaranteeing a free angle for K-Dop. So he's breaking down for Relating Wave on the defensive end. I definitely thought that one was manageable for him. He had a full tank of boost and a good look at every Vitality player. Metzenaris shovels that away from Fairy Peak and get Relating Wave bumped by his own teammate Virtuoso. Metzenaris makes another.
Vitality now 2-goal lead. It's very rare that Vitality can't hold on to leads like this, especially in a game where they do have most of the pressure. A little revenge demo there from Fairy Peak on Virtuoso and Endpoint, who's a big catalyst in their offense. Virtuoso is back in the mix, and he might just put it away himself. It comes off the wall, and Fairy Peak, big clear from him to slow that attack down.
Well, that's been a difficulty unless Endpoint, and Fairy Peak will put in a 5th. And the struggles on the other half of the pitch for Endpoint, unless they had a player on the backboard, it's been pretty difficult to find any length there. Vitality have cleared away everything Endpoint have thrown at them. Only 5 shots to the tent for Vitality. Well, it's completely flipped in game 2, Corelli, and I'm sure Vitality's, even now. We let you put in 4. They'll put in one more and prevent you guys from getting any closer. But this is more of the clinical vitality you expect out the gate.
Holding on to that lead, having most of the pressure, having control in most of the games, finding each other in space, wide open shots. Vitality have looked good here in game 2, and maybe game 1 might have been a bit of a fluke, as Vitality have certainly got their act together here and are putting away chance after chance. The shooting has been on point here in this game, Joby, from Vitality. 13 shots for them. And even with 13 shots, they're almost able to put away half.
That's fairly efficient. You'll see marks like that. We'll praise a team if they're shooting, what, over like 35%?
Yeah.
So to get over 40% is certainly impressive in any game, considering how much pressure you usually have to put on the net before you finally can commit. So Metanaris gets halted forward, and Relating Wave will have the catch, but Endpoint, the work gets a little bit harder after game 2. They really couldn't get anything going. The ball constantly behind their back bumpers, and Fairy Peak puts in Vitality's 7th.
I think we all know this game's over for Endpoint. I think they've known it for a while now, and they're looking forward to the next game, of course. What do you have to do against this Vitality team? Well, I think it starts with the challenge game, because right now Vitality have certainly been winning that, even off the kickoff, as Endpoint have lost multiple challenge on their own side of the field, and Vitality have just taken them apart. Because of it, they've been able to dogpile on a few plays, especially in the corner from Endpoint, where Vitality just win challenge after challenge, especially when things start to churn. Vitality then pop off a big shot, right? Very peak to the back post, K-Dop to the back post. I mean, you really didn't even have to call on the individual skill of Alpha here in this game. It's just Vitality, I think, really won that challenge game from the midfield on, and Endpoint couldn't get out.
Yeah, it didn't feel like Endpoint really fully adjusted to that either. They approached every push as if they were going to win that first challenge, and then the second man would commit forward after that first challenge, but then Vitality did such a great job of keeping the ball away, and the field awareness was certainly at 100% in game 2 for Vitality. Endpoint weren't really able to adjust to that. You saw them diving back for a lot of those saves, and typically that does happen after they lose that first challenge. If the second and third man don't adjust in some respect, it's fine for the second man to play that win, as long as your third man is covering the large loss on the option, so you can handle those long clears that Vitality were getting. But even on those, the scant few times that Endpoint had that, the Vitality, they just had so much space to work with. So at some point, you're like, okay, well, we may have made the adjustment too late, but they're still picking us apart. So where does the buck stop for Endpoint? Well, for them, they hope it stops right here as they start game 3.
And, you know, even their first goal from Endpoint, the pass from Metanaris, I mean, that was a great play, right? I mean, those are the types of plays that I think Endpoint need to put together when they're on offense and maybe put away the first chance. Oh, Metanaris got over it, but not on target. And that's a huge first opportunity missed for Endpoint.
Virtuoso had stopped out the play, but just hadn't been able to find any boost staying in the rotation. We'll keep it locked in midfield. Can't grab that second touch. And Alpha, Relating Wave would take advantage of that ball kicking out just a little far away from him, although Relating Wave was speedy to that next touch. Now it's all about the continued pressure for Endpoint. Can they be consistent in the orange half? Keep grabbing that ball away, keep hitting the doubles, and just missing the ball, but Virtuoso puts it in the top corner, and Endpoint have the lead.
This was a beautiful touch from Relating Wave, because he picks it up in midair and floats with it, and does get the second touch, but just a bit too high, and he does have his help from his team as they crash the net to put it home. It was Virtuoso in the end, but great pickup from Relating Wave to get in there and not only carry the ball to the back wall, but then also get that second touch to throw off the defense, create that sort of chaos that I think Endpoint really like to live in on offense.
Well, when Metanaris had went for that rebound initially, it was probably, K-Dop just straight up gets this. Well, never mind. That happened forever ago, and K-Dop gets the tying goal, gets pull-shotted by Fairy Peak.
Wow.
It's 100% calculated, and Fairy Peak won't tell you anything otherwise.
Yep. Fairy Peak absolutely crushed K-Dop into that, and K-Dop just rolls with the punches, and all of a sudden, open goal.
Like, 100% calculated. Beautiful. On the next catch for Metanaris. Endpoint. It always feels a little bad when the cheeky ones like that get in. Mets having to cut off another pass downfield again, but K-Dop, the thief on the pitch, just takes the ball away constantly for Endpoint, and they're broke.
Yeah, and relating wave, he had full boost, so I guess he felt confident that he could get to this, but just way too slow. And as the last man, K-Dop takes advantage of relating wave with that open backfield, and another wide open goal now for Vitality.
Ooh, Alpha, a nice scoop to K-Dop. That is probably the cleanest little pass off the sidewall that you could hope for Alpha, even being harassed right there. Look at that.
Wow. Great pass from Alpha. And you can see, I mean, we've seen this now through the last two series, especially. Those lateral passes across the box are just so strong because defenses expect that ball to come through that corner. And instead, Alpha makes a great decision to pick it up and laterally push that across on that 90-degree angle again. It's so tough for defenses to stay with a play like that because they're forced to guard their corner, right? Yeah. Otherwise, you have free space. And so if you don't have enough players in the mix, you can't take away all the options, and that passing options is more likely open in most cases.
And, you know, especially because when you start that push as the attacker on the lateral pass, you get so much more lateral momentum built up that the defender, they have to make up for lost speed and time on it. So they have to be moving a little bit faster than you and have to already have predicted that lateral pass ahead of time. It's really hard to react to something like that simply because of the momentum involved on the play. It absolutely can be deadly.
It takes a proactive defense, and right now, Endpoint have not been proactive on defense. They've been quite reactive, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these open nets, a lot of disarray on the defensive side of things for Endpoint. As they do find a little bit more offense here in this game, and right now they're going to need it as they're down by 2 goals, and no shot's going to come of this as Virtuoso tries to keep it alive for Endpoint in the attacking third.
Oh, nice challenge by Vitality, and relating wave was a little too far forward. He gets back and pretty favorable on that touch. Good positioning. Virtuoso squares up, but he's got no more boost left. Just has to kill the 50, and he does. That's Anaris finding relating wave. A good challenge in front for Endpoint. While it hasn't looked the best for them, they have kept the scoreline manageable. This is still winnable for Endpoint if they can convert one of these few pushes, but they have to have a little bit of urgency because time is running thin with 1:30 left.
They're finding themselves on defense once again. Virtuoso, that's a fine touch, and it won't get over Alpha. And relating wave wants to drop it off to Metsinaris. Great choice, but the shot not on target at all, as I think Metsinaris was a bit too hard for him to deal with.
Not really a play here for relating wave. Every time Endpoint do get some favorability of space, that first man rarely has had boost to be able to push the ball forward. And Vitality kick it up. Here's Alpha, but Virtuoso had him red. Rest of Vitality are back. K-Dop on the catch. Leaves that one for relating wave and got the boost back over to midfield. Fairy Peak actually going to get the touch here. Found the read against Metsinaris. Oh, a massive fake on Virtuoso, but Alpha had to pull so far off the ball, it didn't really matter.
I don't think Alpha wanted to challenge either. I think that was a fake thrown by Alpha as well. And both players kind of had to back off the ball there. 30 seconds left now. Endpoint needs something here, and this could be it. Relating wave pushes it to the middle, and Alpha does get the touch. Virtuoso was there, but time running out for Endpoint, and they need something quick.
Good challenge for Virtuoso. Follows it up with a boost. Beautifully done by Virtuoso. Turned nothing into something on this play. Beautiful.
And that's another goal where Endpoint, they have the space kind of high up in the air, these big, long follow-ups. You know, relating wave had his earlier that resulted in a goal eventually, and now Virtuoso just able to straight up put away the shots. And when Vitality commit, if they don't come out with the ball, there's a lot of space open to Endpoint to take advantage of, and with 10 seconds left, they're going to need one more.
Endpoint have done this before at the end of games, and they're going to do it again. Metsinaris pulls up the goal from a Virtuoso bulldoze towards the box.
Great first touch by Virtuoso, then uses that lip of the field for that ball to come down and out and roll towards his teammate. Great play and great pass, and Endpoint able to tie it up here with 6 seconds left.
Endpoint scoring a game-tying goal at the very end of regulation. How many times has that happened? Somebody find that stat for me, as I feel like I've seen this story before. Endpoint coming back big time from a 2-goal lead felt massive for Vitality, Corelli. Endpoint had 0 offense going. By the time they get to midfield, they have no boost. The pass in front is going to be in off the post. Fairy Peak scores. It doesn't matter. They take game 3.
Again and again. Look at these passes. It's almost a very similar pass from before. This time with Fairy Peak, just rolling it down and letting it come to him and then playing it across the box. That pass and that play for any team, doesn't matter who you are in any region, that play is so strong. And Vitality executing multiple times in this series on that play shows how strong, how cerebral this team is to not only execute it with the pass, but having a player in the box to put it away is proved so fruitful for this Vitality team.
Their option coverage has been so good in preventing any sort of lane for Endpoint. It got to the point that Endpoint felt so frustrated that they hadn't been able to get offense going, and they just started trying to force every single play. And so they get to midfield and they'd have no boost after Vitality made a 50 happen. And the first guy who was in the rotation, who had came in because they feel frustrated that they can't push the ball forward, didn't have any boost, couldn't pick up any pads because the push of the play was just, I got to get in and I got to make this next 50. But it just resulted in poor 50s. It was a cavalcade of disaster for Endpoint in that respect. And they couldn't hang on to the ball.
Again, I think it comes down to the challenge game as well, especially when you talk about those passing plays that Vitality are putting together. It's because nobody's able to get that initial challenge on the passer. There's nobody there. That last play, Fairy Peak was able to have that ball just come down, uncontested basically, and have that pass across. Of course, there were players there from Endpoint, but they couldn't get around to it. And it lets that space open up, and it lets that pass come online for Vitality.
Endpoint have used up all their buffer room in the upper bracket. Vitality, it looked a little shaky at first in game 1, but those holes got plugged real quick. Endpoint have been non-existent in the physical game ever since game number 1. They have not had the presence to be able to take control of the rotation and force Vitality to react to them. Rather, Corelli, like you said earlier, Endpoint have been playing to Vitality's fiddle, and they will get the clear out downfield to Kata.
Gadoff, that one again coming right in front of his face. Doesn't get the touch, didn't really matter. Endpoint were all over it. And here's Alpha. Gets Virtuoso to go on the fake. Relating wave, that's the challenge game, but that is not the save game from Endpoint that you want to see, and K-Dop gets the first goal.
But that's just Alpha and the smartness in front, because you see Virtuoso up there in the corner. You know he thinks you're going to play that ball into the corner. As soon as Virtuoso goes straight up, Alpha knows he's got a little bit of time to skirt right under that ball and then play it laterally again. They're killing Endpoint on those pushes every time, and Fairy Peak does one to him.
Look at K-Dop just be such a decoy here. He's just feathering. I am not going to touch it. I'm going to let it go for Fairy Peak. And Metanaris, I was watching this from Metanaris' angle. If you ever get to see the replay, watch that play from Metanaris. You can see he's looking directly at K-Dop saying, what is he going to do with this? Is this surely is a flip reset? No, it's a fake. And who's it? Fairy Peak puts it away.
Stared too long into the sun. Got blinded, and Vitality take a convincing 2-goal lead early on in game number 4. Vitality are certainly feeling it. They've got these touches on lock. They know exactly where everyone is, and finding some sleek passes out to their teammates, or non-passes, if you will. If you don't touch the ball, but you always meant for it to go to your teammate, Corelli, it's a fake pass, but is it still a type of pass, or is it an anti-pass?
If the play works out the way you want, it's always calculated, and that is a fantastic shot from Relating Wave, especially, again, this disruption, this chaos, quickly putting the ball over defenders. That's where Endpoint does so well. They live so well in that chaos, and Vitality do not. I mean, that's a huge counter to Vitality in my eyes, is when you can kind of disrupt the defense and quickly just keep popping the ball up, moving it away from Vitality defenders. They very much struggle with staying with the play, and Endpoint do a great job of staying with it on offense.
Well, yeah, we saw it in the first game when they're able to actually pick up the demos and bump Vitality out of the play. Oh no, Relating Wave.
Another one. And Metanaris did this one earlier as well. And it's tough because you know, the save's there. Relating Wave is clearly there to make the save. Metzenaris was there on the last one. It's just unfortunate, or on the first one, I think. It's just unfortunate that players are backflipping and side flipping and front flipping in their own net.
It's not the only time that's happened on Relating Wave's watch either. Wasn't directly on the shot last time, but it definitely prevented him from getting in the spot in time. And K-Dop takes advantage of it. 4-1, not only space on the pitch, but space on the scoreline.
You know how many players would just bang that ball that Fairy Peak just hit beautifully to K-Dop? So many players would just bang it. And what a pass. Lovely touch into wide open space, into a wide open K-Dop. And Vitality starting to run away with this game.
Yeah, I always felt like I equated Fairy Peak and Garrett G in their respective regions as the best all-around players in the world. Like, Fairy Peak is capable of doing anything, but he won't go to a specific trick every now and then. Like, he doesn't rely too heavily on one or two aspects of his game. He only does what he feels like is best in the situation, and a lot of times that's doling out good challenges and good passes to your teammates, enabling your teammates to make the plays after you create the space. I feel like him and Garrett G are very similar in that respect, and they're the best at doing that. And Fairy Peak just always delivers that consistently.
Yeah, it's very rare that you see a bad Fairy Peak game.
Yeah.
He's very consistent. I think what's even more impressive is being consistent even when your team isn't performing. You know, Vitality as a team have had bad games, no doubt. But even in those games, it feels like Fairy Peak is still performing.
And still, he made that challenge happen, rolled the bar out too far. And K-Dop will get the clear and the movement downfield. Endpoint have nothing. When's the last time they've actually touched the ball? Vitality have straight up kept it away from them. Look, that's 6 consecutive touches for Vitality. There's 7. How many more? Is there 8? Nope. Okay, finally broken up by Endpoint. But they grab it right back. Their first touch in the last 10. And Endpoint have come away with squat. 3 shots on net. Compare it to the 10 from Vitality. And that shows you how smothering it's been. No oxygen for Endpoint. Trying desperately to get downfield, but they've just had no room to work with. But Vitality have had space to sell. And in front, Endpoint, even with a pass in front of the box, can't find a goal.
Yeah, and Vitality, what they've done so well on offense, they're now doing so well on defense, cutting off options. Again, that challenge game going in favor, even on the defensive side of things. That's a pinch from Virtuoso, but it's just not enough. There's no follow-up. And Vitality just have done too well to deal with just about everything that Endpoint have thrown at him here in this game.
Yeah, no follow-up at all, Corelli. That's been Endpoint's problem. They haven't been able to work around these lost challenges. They only get that touch right there. And if they get the second touch, well, they ended up double committing, and that's going to be a lot of work for Virtuoso into the corner. Coming away empty yet again, and Vitality at a 4-1 mark as time comes to a close. Endpoint picks up one for the road, but make no mistake about it, this was a clinical victory for Vitality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Especially in this final game, even with giving up this whatever goal this is from Endpoint, it just feels like Vitality controlled both sides of the field. But not only that, this is, I think, a textbook game for a team that is on the same page. When you see a team on offense that find each other in the box, I say the whole series, honestly, finding each other inside the box and always having that option, always giving each other that option, I think is just so strong from Vitality. And I think that's what's led to not only a lot of the goals, but obviously the victory here over Endpoint.
K-Dop picking up a hat trick in Game 4 to close out his performance. I felt like he also played extremely well alongside the rest of his team. Endpoint, there were certainly some issues on their side alone outside of Vitality being able to work around them so easily. But, you know, we saw the mechanical misplays. We saw them constantly, not constantly, but double commits in poor situations, or they just couldn't find the right spot for the second man to actually contest Vitality when they did get onto the offensive half. None of it really worked out for them at the end, and Vitality end up being the better team at the end of the best of 5. So we'll throw it back to Leaf and the rest of the desk to close out day number 1 of our second regional.